This video is my first preview of the Seattle Seahawks Week 1 collision against the San Francisco 49ers, a division opponent at home. And I'm going to choose to focus on something that's somewhat quintessential, if you will, and that's stopping or slowing down the run game. I think it's even more important against a team and an offense like the San Francisco 49ers. Their run game presentation, whether Christian McCaffrey's on the field or not, their coordination of it is extremely diverse, and it's often very intricate, specific to the opponent they're facing, meaning your defense. As such, Seattle's defense, I think, needs to be similarly versatile and capable of providing a different answer, if you will, sometimes on the very next snap. And in order to do that and make my points as large as I can, I'm going to focus on Seattle's Week 11 win, last season, a game in which they entered 4-5 and had early difficulty stopping the run in Mike Macdonald's first year, right? Through 8 weeks, Seattle was allowing 148 rushing yards per game, culminating with 164 yards allowed on the ground to the Bills in that blowout loss at home. Now, if you recall, inside of that time frame that I'm referencing, Seahawks had allowed 228 to the 49ers, the Week 6 loss at home on Thursday Night Football. All that was I'm sure, part of the reasoning and rationale in trading for Ernest Jones IV, or definitely one of the bigger factors. This rematch in Week 11 occurred after an overtime loss where the Seahawks fell to 4-5 to the Rams, a game that they very clearly could have won. This was a seminal moment, in my opinion. I know Seattle didn't make the playoffs, but the ability to stop the run or at least slow it down such that you limit or whittle down the options for the offensive coordinator on the other side. In this case, it's going to be Kyle Shanahan in Week 1. Thereafter, after that loss to the Rams, you're talking about a total difference in how they were able to stop or slow down the run. In my opinion, trying to put Brock Purdy, who's a quite capable quarterback, obviously, especially he's hurt them with scrambles, but limiting their playbook some. Maybe you're limiting it by 12 to 15%, maybe as much as 18% if you stop or slow down the run game enough and reduce the effectiveness of certain guys, right? Mainly Christian McCaffrey. I know Kittle didn't play in that Week 11 win, 20-17 in San Francisco, nor did Brandon Ayuk, and he still won't be around for a while in 2025, recovering from ACL injury. I'm going to talk about the adjustments and options that Seattle displayed that day to slow down McCaffrey. I think he was like 19 carries for 78 yards, and they held San Francisco to only 277 total yards, including 4.9 per play. If you compare that to when San Francisco came to Seattle and basically bludgeoned the Seahawks defense for 228 on the ground, they averaged 7.9 yards per play in that Thursday Night Football win. This was a drastically different defense from a run defense standpoint thereafter, and it's why I've chosen to focus on this element of the game for my first preview. Generally, I'm going to try to keep these previews to 15 or 18 minutes. This one will not be so, to be honest with you. Normally, when I use this presentation style, I'm going to talk about the field and boundary where the ball is located. It kind of is less important for San Francisco in terms of their run game. If they find out that you are deficient, don't have enough numbers into the boundary, the short side of the field, then that's where they'll run the football. Again, I think Seattle's answers have got to be extremely diverse from a snap-by-snap basis. And I think that the presence of Ernest Jones IV is really what made Seattle's defense improve their run defense in 2024, and it's what I think can get them started off on the right foot in 2025. He had a spectacular game against San Francisco. He had an immediate impact, if you ask me. Oftentimes, yes, he's flowing unblocked, meaning no one is touching him, and he's able to go unevaded into the same lane that McCaffrey tries to fit into. Like I said, McCaffrey, I think, was at 19 carries for 78 or maybe 79 yards, something like that. The point is, if you can get Jones to the football unblocked, he's capable of making 12 to 15 tackles a game. He'll be spot shadowed in blue generally throughout this video. This is the same play from the end zone angle, and I think it illustrates my point, what I talked about in the lead-in, which is San Francisco is willing to run the ball to either side. Wherever they find out that you have a deficiency in terms of just sheer numbers, they'll motion a guy over, in this case the tight end. It's a unique blocking scheme, if you ask me. Again, here's Jones totally unblocked, but let's pull this back a moment and see what they do with Derek Hall, the edge defender, into the boundary. You can see McCaffrey's got outside briefly, but how they block this, you would anticipate that you would get a down block, a pin down by Jennings, and then some type of looping to the outside of a tackle. I wonder if the stepping up of the boundary side inside linebacker, I think it was Tyrese Knight, did something to the possible scheme. But look how they're getting this done. Jennings is just stabbing briefly Hall to the inside, and then the tight end 82 is overtaking him. It really doesn't matter because, like I said, when you leave Ernest Jones IV totally unblocked, he's going to make the tackle, even against a premier athlete like Christian McCaffrey. I think that he gives them consistency on the inside, high-level athleticism, obviously, but also the ability to run at angles, flow over the top, if you will, and get to the football no matter where the running back tries to fit it. This is a unique scheme, a unique presentation. You have the running back into the boundary, so this is the short side of the field. Well, that's the hash, the ball's on the right hash. This is the boundary, the short side of the field. This is the wide side down here, commonly referred to as the field. McCaffrey is away from the midline. He's off the midline, almost like a halfback alignment in an old school wing T. The Seattle Seahawks are in what I would call their nickel look against jumbo 12 personnel. And that's one of the things that Mike McDonald believes in, if you ask me, is trying to stop the run from your nickel personnel. Watch how the 49ers, deal with this edge defender. I think it's 98, Robertson Harris. I may have the second portion of his name wrong. My apologies for that. But watch how they deal with him. Basically, they get one of the tight ends. He's an eligible offensive lineman here. Steps to him and engages him. And then the second tight end in motion tries to expand him. It's like a late double team. Very commonly used now. San Francisco, I think, first started to really unveil this, especially on toss schemes like 2021, 2022, somewhere in that range. But you got Jones, I think, trying to go underneath of this against Williams, the left tackle. And one of the things for Seattle, I think, to consider is where to put Leonard Williams. And what I mean is, because of how effective and how talented the left tackle is for San Francisco, I think you've got some clear run tendencies to that side. They're left, the defense is right. And I wonder if maybe Leonard Williams shouldn't play to that side more. I'll give you the end zone angle of this play. I think Leonard Williams should have been an all-pro in 2024. I just don't think there's any argument for him not being an all-pro, let alone an immediate Pro Bowler. So how are they getting this done? The initial block is by the eligible tight end, number 76. And then the second tight end, 82, going in motion, is going to double that edge defender. The left tackle, Williams, moves up to the second level immediately, and this is Leonard Williams, who's now one-on-one with the left guard, and he's going to win that matchup more often than not. You can see eyes on completely on the running back. McCaffrey was off-center from the midline, like I said. So there's just a ton of different presentations that the 49ers are going to give you, and I wonder if isn't more effective on some of these first and second downs to just basically supplant Leonard Williams to the right side of the defense, the same side as Trent Williams, essentially, to play against that tendency, if you believe what I'm saying. A couple of unique plays here in a row, and this is one that I've seen Seattle do multiple times. Saw them do on some film against the Bills that I watched last week for a different video. So watch what happens with 98, how they're going to ricochet him in. So the run concept is to this side. That's McCaffrey's path, illustrated in purple. And the tight end's actually going opposite. It's a 1st and 10 from the second possession. Again, all of this is from that Week 11 game. If I have something mislabeled and says Week 14, my apologies for that. But here's 98, all right? See, he's stepping down. It's almost like a ricochet where he's trying to run into the interior defensive lineman, pinch, if you will, and unclog or clear up his teammate and ensure that the inside linebacker is able to flow over the top unblocked. It's not like this is rarely used, but Seattle seems to be really good at, I don't want to say guessing, but anticipating where the run play is going to occur and then stepping that defensive end, in this case 98, defensive end, defensive tackle, whatever you want to call him, to the correct side. So this is what I mean right here. He's going to step down on this blue path here, and he's going to run into the left guard, 65, the same guy that Leonard Williams was dealing with earlier. Really cool the way the 49ers try to do this. They're stepping the right tackle to this edge defender Hall, and then the fullback, 44, Huschek, is going to basically take him over. So here is the step down or pinch, ricochet, whatever you want to call it, by 98. He stepped down into the guard. And what has happened a couple of times in the film I've seen recently is the D tackle on the inside to the interior is able to fold or scrape over the top because that guard and the offensive lineman, his teammate, essentially run into each other. Additional to that, it oftentimes allows Ernest Jones IV to flow over the top. He's hesitating for just a moment. This is also a really badass play by Byron Murphy, who I think should be talked about a little bit more often. I recognize that his rookie year didn't produce as much in terms of sacks, but Murphy's located here. These one-on-ones against the 49ers, at least in this game in Week 11, he won a higher percentage of them than you may believe with stuff like this. His ability to move laterally and then reorient and get like basically counter the counter, to use a combat sports analogy. If his first touch or hand contact didn't work, the second or perhaps third did. A really beautiful play, if you ask me. Like I said, he has great strength while he's moving laterally. I know that he didn't live up to the hope or maybe the hype that Seahawks fans had for him going into his rookie year. But I think he's got a great opportunity in Week 1 to illustrate how important he is to this defense, specifically against the run. This is still second possession, and we're now into nickel defense. So the different presentations that Seattle's going to have to have or match, in terms of personnel by the offense, and then what Seattle does defensively to stop or even slow down or shut down the run game, if you will. This is 2nd and 10, very next play, in fact, after that play that I just showed you. There's the midline, the ball's on the left hash here, and so pre-snap, originally, we've got an alignment issue by the 49ers. It's 3 into the boundary. So you, as a defense, have to kind of counter that. You can see they've shifted the inside linebacker over along with Woolen and the edge defender, as well as a safety. Julian Love typically lines up at boundary side safety. It's Love right there. Okay, you can see the ball is on the left hash. That's the blue line. I'll try to be consistent about that in most of my film study videos. So diverse set of problems presented by this offense in that you have 3 to the boundary initially. Running back, tight end, receiver, Samuel. I know he's since gone, and I don't know who they're going to have to replace him. You got to have just as many answers as possible to all of the questions they give you. And one of them is having a badass like Devon Witherspoon, who can play nickel DB, cover well, but then also come up and make tackles. He's whatever he does, right? He's absolutely committed to it. Plays with a level of violence that's this, it's even rare at the NFL level. You can see there's absolutely space to get to. Murphy is being comboed or double-teamed. It's difficult for Jones to get over the top here without giving McCaffrey possibly a quick or immediate cutback lane. Like I said, it was a 2nd and 10. I think it goes down as a gain of 4. Look, all of the concepts that they have, they being the 49ers, you're not going to stop or shut down all of them. But the idea is to slow down or maybe dissuade them from some of these 2nd and 10 runs in these anomalous situations. Create as many 3rd and 8s as possible. Same play from the end zone angle. Here's the tight end on the backside into the boundary along with McCaffrey. When I say boundary, I'm talking about balls on the left hash. This is the short side of the field, the boundary. There's the field to our right-hand side of the screen. The Seahawks defense is left. So Jennings, I think, is probably making a mistake here. He's going to the front side corner. Maybe he's actually trying to get the nickel. You can see that he kind of veers back to the inside. But Witherspoon's got great eyes. We're talking about here to be able to jump back to the inside and make the play, not get stretched to the outside. Tackle is taken on the edge defender. Witherspoon is the only guy who can fold in here because Murphy's getting comboed or doubled, whatever you want to describe it as. And you can see Jones is not going to immediately flow over the top and possibly leave McCaffrey that downhill cutback lane. Their run game is very diverse. It's dangerous. I think Seattle's personnel is up to the task, and that's why I'm showing this Week 11 game. I know that later on in the season, Seattle did allow, I believe, 140 yards to the Packers. Actually, ironically, a home loss, I think, on a Thursday Night Football. But against the 49ers in the second game, run defense was drastically different. I like some of the things they did in terms of putting a bigger, stronger defensive end into the boundary. 98, Robertson Harris. Still 3rd possession here. 21 personnel by the 49ers from a personnel standpoint, but from a formation standpoint, somewhat anomalous. McCaffrey, the running back, is split out wide as a wide receiver. The fullback, 44, Juszczyk, is lined up in the backfield. That, it pretty much tells you that it's not going to be a run concept, but you don't know that as you call your defense. So Seattle's answer is interesting. It's a nickel 4-2-5 with Julian Love as the nickel, Witherspoon, and then Woolen as the corners. Woolen obviously tucked into the boundary like normal. It's a pass concept that ends up being just a beautiful play, if you ask me, by Witherspoon here. You can see Purdy is absolutely looking to that side. Witherspoon's matched up with McCaffrey, who's got great slot receiver skills. He probably has the best receiving skills out of any running back in the league. Witherspoon all over him. The initial look was at the middle of the field, in fact, and Purdy's actually come back over here pretty quick. Great challenge at the convergence point by Witherspoon. He's willing to play physical. He's willing to play through the receiver. In this case, it was McCaffrey. It's one of the things I think that separates Witherspoon from so many other corners in the league, is that he can play slot corner, he can play nickel, he can play against the run from either of those alignments. My point in focusing on Week 11 film here is, first of all, they did a better job. They being Seattle, right? They did a better job stopping or slowing down the run, only allowing 277 yards overall, 4.9 per play. If you can provide enough resistance on 1st and 10 run concepts, you get some of the plays that I just showed you. Basically, McCaffrey lining up outside where he isn't normally. He's normally in the backfield. And the fullback in the backfield. It's a little bit of a giveaway. I guess technically it could have been sweep to Samuel, right? Or a pass play. But you've narrowed, you've whittled down the options for the offense just by their presentation, which what I mean is the formation. You've limited the plays that they're able to run because you've stopped or slowed down the run enough early on, and creating as many 2nd and 10s, like the second possession I showed you, or 2nd and 9s as possible, or more than perhaps San Francisco wants to deal with. I do want to compare the overall effectiveness of San Francisco's offense. In the offseason, one of the large-scale projects I did was a new offensive efficiency metric called TOR, T-O-E-R. Basically, anything on a 70 to 72 scale score, 0 to 100 is the rating scale. Anything between a 70 and 72 is about a 70% win percentage for the team, the offense that produces that score. It's 10 categories. All 10 categories go from 0 to 10. Add them all up, you get 100. It's actually possible to get 105. But basically, anything above 70 to 72 gives you a great chance to win the football game. If you get to 78 to 82, somewhere in that range, which is superior for a one-game measurement, that proves to have like an 85 to 88% win percentage. And I've actually gone back and been able to do 2023 and 2024 data and to prove that to myself. And so for Week 6, the 49ers, their win in Seattle on Thursday Night Football, their TOR metric score was an 81. So, of course, they won the football game. Week 11, this game that we're using here as a blueprint for what I think the Seahawks have to do on defense, it was a 67. And I will, in another video preview for this, talk about Seattle's offense from 2024, which I know they've moved on to bringing in Clint Kubiak, but you can get a real great idea of what I'm talking about as far as the TOR metric scores, the one-game scores, and how you can compare that to the wins and losses. Basically, cross-reference their TOR metric output with their wins and losses for each week. All right, so after that third possession, which ended with a interception that was caused by Witherspoon, Seattle was able to produce a field goal, get to within 7-6. This is fourth possession, another 1st and 10 for the offense, and again, a nickel 4-2-5 representation, or answer, I should say, for the Seahawks. In this case, Witherspoon is the nickel, and you've got Love and Okada. I think it's Okada, or no, Love and Bryant, excuse me. Okada actually played a lot in this game. One tight end, one running back, which is McCaffrey, so it's 11 personnel. There's the nickel structure of the defense from a personnel standpoint, but Witherspoon's presence here almost makes it look like a pseudo 4-3, if you will, with two high safeties. This unique play scheme where the quarterback is reverse pivoting, so he's counterclockwise reverse pivoting, and it's basically F counter. McCaffrey, I think, slight jab step, and then running underneath of the two pulling linemen. So we're talking about the reverse pivot by Purdy here compared to just opening to the running back. So you can see he's turning his back to the running back. But as far as the scheme goes and why it gets defeated, you've got a left guard pulling and kicking. And guess what? It's Leonard Williams lined up on the defense's right, the same side as Trent Williams, which is one of the things I'm advocating for in this video, which is put Leonard Williams to that side of the ball where you expect them to run the ball the most. Williams is located here. Leonard Williams, that is located here. And you can see how violently he shocks the right guard in that pull, condenses it. There's no expansion of that gap. Expansion of the gap would be a kick-out block that widens the gap up. In this case, it gets condensed or compressed. Williams folds inside, and lo and behold, like I said, Ernest Jones IV is the second guy there. Same play from the end zone angle. Here is Williams. McCaffrey offset once again, but this time the quarterback is in the shotgun. Recall earlier on, the quarterback was under center, and he was kind of offset over here by himself. Right guard's going to pull and kick out Leonard Williams, or attempt to. And then the tight end 82 is the second man through. So what I mean by that is there's the tight end. He should be running through this gap underneath the kick out. But as a result of the way that Leonard Williams played it, basically the violence and the force with which he took on that kick out block, there is really no gap to run through, no gap that's large enough for the tight end and then Christian McCaffrey to fit underneath of. Additional to that, Ernest Jones IV scraping over the top of Trent Williams such that he's able to help out Leonard Williams on the tackle. That's the type of finish you want against any running back for the 49ers, if you ask me, on a 1st and 10. Dissuade them from running the ball on 1st and 10 such that they pass the ball more. It's a very simple concept. And create hopefully more 2nd and 10s after an incompletion or interceptions like you had on the 3rd possession with Devon Witherspoon. Still that 4th possession, 2nd down, 11 personnel once again. So you get this nickel reaction, 4 down linemen, 2 stand-up outside linebackers, 2 inside linebackers, Witherspoon as the nickel once again. And it's a short toss. This one's not designed to get outside, okay? I want to constantly talk about Ernest Jones IV's reactions and his ability to be at the point of attack, especially in this game. So when I say short toss, I mean they're not trying to get the ball necessarily to the outside. It's oftentimes designed to get players flowing to that direction and then cut it back up underneath. And in this case, they're bringing a wide receiver. I think it's Jennings, who's very versatile, bringing him back against the flow or the grain of the toss, if you will. So the toss is coming here and then winding back, possibly behind this wide receiver. You got 2 things happening here from a Seahawks standpoint. Number one, Murphy does get driven back a little bit with the line of scrimmage being here, and then he will break off from the combo at the exact moment that the center releases him to move up to Ernest Jones IV. It's a skill. It's a hidden skill, if you ask me, for defensive tackles, especially when you're getting moved backwards here or laterally and backwards, to be able to shed the block as soon as one of the comboing offensive linemen moves up to the 2nd level. And from an Ernest Jones standpoint, you see him kind of disappear from this angle over the top, stab the center a little bit with his hands. I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see it a little bit more clearly. There's Jones, and Murphy is kind of lined up in front of him. He'll be comboed and kind of moved laterally or horizontally. The blocking scheme is a combo/double here, combo/double here, and then the receiver 15 is looping all the way around to possibly go get the will linebacker. In this case, I think it's Knight. So this is the technique we're talking about with Murphy. Of course, you don't want to be moved horizontally and laterally like that, but he has demonstrated the skill, well, twice in this video, but across the entirety of his rookie season. As soon as 64 combos up to move up, you can see the frame, long arm that Jones gets on him. That's when Murphy's going to be able to shed this offensive lineman that way to our left, his left as well, and then get involved in the play. Witherspoon is there. Samuel didn't seem to be interested in some of the run schemes that he was asked to execute in this game, as well as some of the other film that I saw earlier in the year. Also look at 2 drives from the second half that I think are important. Basically, this is a game where I think Seattle came up with some different answers. Leonard Williams is very versatile. He's extremely versatile from an alignment standpoint, what he can get accomplished in the pass game especially, but the run game as well. I do think there comes a time to put him at a location that he's most effective against the other team's best offensive lineman. Well, in the pass rush, you want to do the reverse, right? You want to get him matched up with the other team's weakest pass offensive lineman and pass pro. In these run schemes where you kind of know where the ball is going to go, I really like Williams as the D tackle to Seattle's right and Murphy as the D tackle or shade nose tackle to their left. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Look, Seattle did take a 13-10 lead in the third quarter. And then San Francisco goes on like a 14-play drive. They eventually do make it 17-13. It's on a play-action boot pass from Purdy to Jennings, who had a really good game that week. I think he had 10 catches for like 92 yards. But on that possession, here's the run plays for San Francisco, and I think this is the point that I'm trying to get to, at least in this preview, and that's stop or slow down the run game enough such that it forces them, Purdy and the offense, to execute pass plays, especially with Brandon Ayuk being out. Here's the runs on that drive that we're going to talk about in a moment. McCaffrey, 3 yards. McCaffrey, 1 yard. Deebo Samuel, who's since gone, he's in Washington, on a sweep, a loss on the play. In fact, 1 yard loss. I think it's tackled for TFL for Julian Love. McCaffrey did have like a 6 or 7 yard gain on a third down, kind of a surprise draw play that I'll show you in a moment. My point is the formula is simple, in my opinion. Every presentation that you give on defense has to be sound against the run. And then the guys on the field, right, they got to be violent. They got to get to the football, limit extra yards for McCaffrey or anyone. They held San Francisco to 131 on the ground on 27 carries. I think it's like 4.7 per carry. Now you may say, well, that's not that great, Coach. Well, check this out. Purdy had 40 yards. He had 40 of those 131. That came on, I think, 4 scrambles and then 1 maybe designed run play. Purdy's quick, right? He's very good at that. So there's another facet to this that is a topic for another video. Quarterback contain, keeping him, Purdy, in the pocket. That's obviously important. Here we're focusing on the run defense. I think that is strategy number 1, or point number 1, if you will, for Seattle in week 1. And it's to keep Christian McCaffrey and the offensive line from being effective in the run game. This is that 7th possession. Like I said, the Seahawks are up 13-10. It begins in the third quarter and then culminates or finishes in the fourth. I won't show you every play from this drive. So this is 21 personnel against a base 3-4. Now, it's a unique 3-4. Mafe is widened up. He's widened up because San Francisco, they're willing to put the fullback out wide and sometimes motion him back in, but sometimes they don't. So you and your base defensive structure, you got to decide, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to leave 2 stand-ups out here with no one lined up over top of them? In this case, Seattle did not want to do that, so they put Mafe out as a pseudo-nickel, if you will, because of the formation that was presented. It's a unique run scheme, man, to be honest with you. I was a little surprised seeing it. I think it's 97 here, and Jones, obviously, at the point of attack on the run concept. It's a little unique in that you have the tight end and the fullback, Juszczyk, going opposite of McCaffrey's flow. McCaffrey's going here, and these guys are going in the opposite direction. It almost kind of gives like a little bit of a split zone feel, or F counter, if you will, but the offensive linemen are zoning it. They're all working in this direction with 82 and then 44 going in the opposite direction. And it's so anomalous to me. I kind of feel like the run defense, the quality of the run defense that Seattle displayed is what may have led to this type of play being called. I'm not saying San Francisco didn't run it at all in any parts of the year, but they didn't run this in the first quarter. And I didn't see them running this in the first quarter in any of the other 3 games that I had complete film of. I guess here's the scheme. 82 would be on the kick out, presumably of the edge defender away from his side. And then 44, Juszczyk would fold, overlap underneath, and then possibly give McCaffrey a cutback lane. Jones is the Mike linebacker, 13, set to the field. He'll be at the point of attack along with, I believe, 97. This, to me, was a matchup that the Seahawks were able to win with 3 different defensive linemen. Talking about going against this center, and I don't know if that's going to be the starter for San Francisco this year. It's quite possible they have a different guy. I do really like, I think it's Pooney, the 77, the right guard. I wish the Ravens were able to draft him a couple of years ago, but you have a one-on-one here, and then 13, Jones, is probably seeing 82 and 44 go across from him. So he sees the offensive lineman step this way first, he being Jones, and then eyes catch 82 and or 44 going in the opposite direction. And I think that's why Jones cross steps across this flow. Fits back underneath along with 97 and 98. All right, when we talk about some of these variable looks, this one is definitely different for Seattle. This is a 4-3 look. I mean, from a personnel standpoint, all right? So what we're talking about is Drake Thomas is down here as one of the inside linebackers, along with Ernest Jones, and then also Knight. So it's a 4-3 personnel look and also a 4-3 formation or front that's offered. Now, Thomas does walk up to match the two tight ends here, along with the receiver Jennings, who motions over. So you've got an eligible tight end 76 by number, or excuse me, an eligible tight end by number 82, and then a guy who's reported eligible in 76. It's a run concept to that side, and it's a brilliant track by Jones once again. I hate to talk about just him in this video, but if you can keep him clean, he's just so good at tempoing or matching the tempo of the running back, in this case McCaffrey. Flowing over the top, you can see what's getting ready to happen, right? Also, credit to Thomas on this play. I don't think he was on the field the previous snap. He comes in, he steps upfield, hammers Jennings to set an edge, and then Jones fits directly underneath of it for another, low, fundamental tackle, if you will. Can Seattle recreate this against San Francisco in week 1? I think they can. They can create many different looks. This is the same play from the end zone angle. It's kind of similar to the way that I described Robertson Harris doing something earlier in the game. We're talking about this right here, how he's going to step down and end up running into Trent Williams. I don't know that it was necessarily by design, but it's the way that it works out, because what it ends up giving Jones is this clear path to step over the top and meet McCaffrey in the hole. He's just got really great skill, if you ask me, Jones, about getting his shoulder to the outside when he needs to, basically forcing the running back to go back inside at the last second and really have no option, as opposed to maybe overflowing this some and allowing McCaffrey to bring it back, which wouldn't be an NFL caliber inside linebacker play. To me, Ernest Jones IV is very underrated. I was glad when Seattle brought him back this year. I think he's a key cog in their defense overall for 2025, but specifically for this game. Now, the 49ers do score on this drive. They take a 17-13 lead. This is still on that same possession, and this is a unique play for the 49ers. It's a 3rd and 5. Seattle's definitely making it look like man. Not a mug blitz necessarily, but you've got Jones the fourth walked up as an edge defender. This is one of the things I would not – Mike McDonald is all about chaos, right? And I get it, but I would not want to see Jones the fourth here. To me, as good as he is, I want his feet here on almost every single play. Now, he still stabs the receiver, Jennings, in the chest and kind of tries to set the edge if McCaffrey runs outside, but that's not what's happening here. It's almost like a pseudo-zone draw. It's a great tackle by Okada, man. I really like his play. He's the guy that in the preseason had the interception of the preseason, hell, maybe the interception of the year. This is a violent-ass tackle against Christian McCaffrey. There's Jones. To me, I want his feet here. McCaffrey might still get the first down, right? It's a 3rd and 5. I just think he's too damn good to play out on that edge at all, to basically waste his talent. Here's Okada. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. You can track him throughout the whole play if you wish. I thought he played quite well in this game. There's one other regular season game from last year. I wasn't as impressed, but two tackles like this in this game. He's a guy, he's an attitude fit. He might be an attitude fit for the 49ers game at times. There's certainly more talented athletes from a safety standpoint on this roster, but from a mentality standpoint and a tackling ability, coming forward that is, he might be the right guy to have on the field at times against San Francisco. Still, 7th possession is 21 personnel against a 4-2-5 presentation by Seattle. So what I mean is there's your 4 down linemen. One of them is a stand-up outside linebacker, same concept. 2 inside linebackers here, and then Love is at the nickel. With the ball in the middle of the field, less predictable about where Riq Woolen is going to be. There is no boundary, basically, and then I think we've got Witherspoon down here at the bottom. Play-action run concept, and this is something that McDonald is willing to do when he thinks you're going to run the ball. Look, that's a blitz from Witherspoon, and then also a blitz from Woolen as the corner on the other side. Let's pull this back so you can see Woolen, Witherspoon. The Ravens got an amazing interception by Brandon Stevens against San Francisco on the same blitz on Christmas Day in 2023. Witherspoon off this edge, Woolen off this edge, trying to create essentially a 6-man front post-snap for the offense to deal with. You can see we've got a receiver wide open. It's tough, man, when you're When you're this linebacker and this corner is blitzing, you get run flow in that direction. They kind of need you here. They kind of need you here if you're going to defend the run, if it is actually a run concept. They kind of need you here at some point, some angle, right? Some gap fit. However, they also need you out here. Thankfully, Witherspoon is just a badass football player, able to get hands on the ball, tip it up in the air. I think they actually had 2 or maybe 3 deflections on this drive. San Francisco still ends up scoring, like I said. This is a Mike McDonald special. Both guys are off screen, meaning Witherspoon and Woolen. Run flow to this side, tight end going opposite, kind of classic. Neither one of those guys is the one that's going to be open. It's receiver out into the flats. Just great. This is Witherspoon. This is perfect for him, and I would like to see them do this a little bit early. Why do I say that I'd like to see something a little bit crazy or outlandish like this early? Because it sets the tone to Shanahan and the offensive staff. We're not going to let you run the ball. Woolen is right here, by the way. He was off the right edge for the defense. He was off screen initially. It sets the tone for their offensive staff. Lets them know, we're not going to let you run the ball. You're going to have to do something different. You're going to have to throw the football on 1st and 10. Still that same possession. I think this is the last run play that I'll show you. The point overall here is you're going to have to stop the run from multiple configurations. Base 3-4, nickel 4-2-5, base 3-4 with a strong safety rolled up, nickel 4-2-5 with Witherspoon in the box. Remember that 4-3 presentation that I showed you with Drake Thomas on the field? It's going to be a lead sweep to Samuel. This is a little different than the play that I showed you earlier where Huschek was in the backfield. This time it's McCaffrey. He's going to lead out to the edge. There's the concept. It's a nickel presentation one more time. 4 down linemen. There's your 2 inside linebackers. Witherspoon is the nickel. Since the ball's in the middle of the field after an incomplete pass, you don't exactly know where Woolen is going to be. I have thought for a while that San Francisco will at times want to run the ball to Woolen, and that could be one of the reasons why when the ball is on the hash and you know where Woolen's going to be, that they have run the ball, they being San Francisco, into the hash, into the short side a little bit more, basically force him to tackle. I don't know if other football analysts for Seattle have talked about that or identified that. I certainly don't mean to be disrespectful. In fact, I have a Woolen video coming out later this week. I think he's a hell of a football player, but his relative weakness, if you ask me, is run defense. It's not for Julian Love. He's the safety to the defense's right, the top side of our screen. That same sweep to Samuel. No, he doesn't necessarily finish the tackle, but when you get the end zone angle, you'll see he finishes on the correct side. Here's Love right here. There's the flow with McCaffrey, and then Samuel on the sweep. Woolen dealing with Jennings for a moment, so he's not forcing the ball inside, partially because he ends up getting blocked here and kind of pinned to the inside. That's not Jennings. But at least Love fits on the correct side. So what I mean is his head is on this side, and he's tackling with his inside shoulder. He's not giving Samuel any chance to take this out to the sideline. Like I said, they did score on the 7th possession. So they weren't necessarily successful from a defensive standpoint in stopping everything because it was a play-action boot. I also recognize that the dynamic is different for San Francisco and that they don't have Samuel, so they can't go 21 personnel or 11 and make or merge or morph one personnel grouping into another. I do think that the defense deserves credit for this game, the overall game plan, and an ability to stop or slow down the run. Again, Purdy had 40 of their 131 rushing yards, but because of what they had to overcome. So what I mean is Seattle got the ball down 17-13, actually crossed midfield. If you recall, actually had to convert 1 4th down to keep the drive going. And in this case, it ends up being a dive to Charbonnet. This edge defender is left unblocked. I guess he's supposed to be possibly held by this motion, but the running back, tailback is taking it downhill instead of like this wider path. And as a result, that edge defender is able to get in there, make contact, hold Charbonnet to no gain on the play. There's a whole bunch of other guys there too, don't get me wrong. It's not just it's not the tailback's fault. The point is that they got stopped and San Francisco got the ball back with a chance to pretty much salt the game away in a 17-13 lead. So 8th possession, right? They got the ball near midfield and go jumbo 12 personnel. 1 tight end is up top and 1 tight end is down here. The tight end up top, who's spot shadowed in yellow, is actually an eligible offensive lineman. Base defensive response from Seattle. So serious at this point. about stopping and run. I love this play because of how it gives you an example of what Jones is capable of, in my opinion. All right, he's capable of moving laterally to either side and then jumping back to fit the running back. Watch McCaffrey's flow here, and I think this is Murphy who wins to the top side, and I believe that forces McCaffrey to bring this back underneath, and Jones is the guy who meets him there once again. McCaffrey's a hell of a running back. I think he's a borderline Hall of Fame talent if he was healthy all the time. But Jones is his equal, meaning someone who can meet him in the hole and tackle him one-on-one. I'm sure that there's a missed tackle somewhere of Jones against McCaffrey. I'm sure 49ers fans, could probably remember it. Maybe Seahawks fans as well. I think that when the ball is on the left hash for the 49ers offense, the right hash for Seattle's defense, that you should get this set up here, meaning Leonard Williams to the right, and then Jones and Murphy stacked over top of each other in some alignment, some combination, to their left. I think this balances out the defense well. I don't know a whole lot about the Will situation for Seattle. Not necessarily sure that they've upgraded a ton. If you can create this one-on-one for Murphy, then you put him in a situation where he can win, maybe not on the first punch, but on the second move. So what we're talking about is hand shot here by Murphy, and then watch him reset his hands the second time to get that offensive lineman off of him, and then Jones fit underneath. I think this is a perfect example of how Seattle should try to set their defense. Leonard Williams to the right, Ernest Jones IV, and Murphy to the left when the ball is on the right hash for the defense, that is. One more from the 8th possession. This is late fourth quarter, and it's Jumbo 12 once again. So you've got an eligible offensive lineman up here, and then a tight end, number 82, who's eligible by his numbers. Base defensive personnel for Seattle, and thankfully they're going to rotate the safeties to match that motion by Jennings. When Jennings was lined up over here, you can see Love is there, and Bryant's in the middle of the field, so Love is essentially rolled up. I can't really say he's the nickel because in a base defense there is no nickel, a base 3-4 or a base 4-3. And now Bryant rolls up and Love rotates to center field. So they switched as a result of that shift or motion from Jennings. It's a toss concept to the field away from the boundary, and there's Bryant who walked up. Thankfully, he did walk up because they needed him on this particular play. Also gives you an idea of how Devon Witherspoon wants to finish every single play with some violence. He is able to escape Jennings here, and then watch him knife in at the last second on the outside. If Seattle brings this type of mentality, this ability to match the formation, basically not get out formation, not give up numbers, if you will, to San Francisco, and they play with this type of tenacity, I think you got a great opportunity to get a win in week 1. I respect Shanahan, McCaffrey, and that whole group. Brock Purdy, I think, is very underrated. There's the base personnel presentation by the defense. You got 2 edge defenders here. They're stand-ups, I know. It's 3-4, and how we would refer to it, old school days, they would just call it a 50. And then they've rolled Bryant up to that side. Why? Because it's a 5-man surface. So you've got left guard, left tackle, eligible offensive lineman 76, eligible by number 82, and then Jennings has motioned over. So a 5-man surface means you should probably match with 5 or at least 4.5. If anybody's interested in football numbers and how that gets accomplished, feel free to ask me in the comment section. Here's Witherspoon. First of all, Bryant's unblocked, right? He ends up being the forced defender, so he's there. But Witherspoon's ability to escape this, and I love the way he finishes every play. Seattle forced the punt here, if you remember, with 2:45 left, and then they're able to get possession, go downfield, and get the game-winning touchdown, game-winning scramble, in fact, by Geno Smith. Even their record at 5-5 at this point. This type of defense, the one that I tried to display here, against the run specifically, will go a long way to getting off to a 1-0 start, especially at home. I think the quality of the defense overall is going to be more in line with what you saw in this game. If you can get teams into as many 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9s, or even 3rd and 6, Mike McDonald and Aiden Durde, they're going to put the offensive staff, the other team's offensive staff, in a difficult position, basically make it an uphill battle. I know it's quite simple to say. You clearly don't want to turn the football over. Turnovers and stopping the run and running the ball successfully yourself has been an adage, or three of the adages used to determine win percentage for many years. In this case, against this particular San Francisco team, without Brandon Ayuk and with the new offensive focus that Seattle has under Clint Kubiak, stopping or slowing the run game down for San Francisco will go a long way towards getting a win in week one. Most of my previews I want to be in the 15-minute range. This one went, way over. If you don't enjoy longer content, you're probably not listening at this point, but my apologies for that. I'll have to get a second one out that's of a shorter variety, probably on Tuesday evening, that'll be on how Seattle can attack San Francisco's defense some with under center run concepts and then play action stuff as well. There's new players on both sides, I get it. So some may say this matchup, this week 11 win, 20-17 on the road, is not indicative of what we're going to see in week one. I recognize that's a valid point. But I think there's some common elements in that San Francisco is going to present a really wide range of run concepts for you to defend. And your presentation, nickel 4-2-5, base 4-3, base 3-4, or somewhat anomalous 4-3, like with Drake Thomas on the field, has to recognize that. You have to be able to stop or defend the run effectively to both sides of the field and boundary. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and it wasn't too haphazard. I was trying to give you as much information as possible leading up to this matchup. I had more time on this holiday weekend than typical, so I was able to get this one out for you guys. I appreciate your time. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, please be on the lookout for a tour metric comparison for Seattle's offense and how I think you can use the tour offensive efficiency metric to kind of project out how superior Seattle's offense will be this year, number one, and how I think that could lead to more than 10 wins. I appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study look, albeit a quite elongated one, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.